It is very hard to believe that we are almost into October of the college football season. How is everybody doing today? Thank you for tuning in to the Tate's Take on YouTube. It's Thursday, September 18th, heading into week 4 of the college football season. It's crazy. It's to just think of everything that has happened already and that will continue to happen going into October and November, especially as our conference play picks up. It's awesome. I love it. That's what I'm doing this for. I love talking college football with all of you. So please like and subscribe to the channel. Jeff Tate is it's you're gonna find a lot of things if you search Tate, Jeff Tate. I found that if you search Jeff Tate, it's showing up. So I think there's some things I can do where I can flag my name, just those type of things to help people find it. But as we grow, as hopefully those subscribers grow over time, it'll be a little easier. When you have 16 subscribers, it's a little harder to pop up immediately, but keep an eye out for the video that gets dropped today. I hope that everybody has enjoyed the short videos on Instagram. That's Tate's Take on Instagram. I enjoy doing those a lot. And this weekend, I'm home for all of college football, so we should have a lot more of those. So last week, we had some crazy games. We had I thought Notre Dame was going to beat Texas A&M. They struggled to win that game. That was a big loss for Notre Dame. Like I said on the show last week, that I thought if Notre Dame lost that, not definitively kicks them out of the playoff race, but it definitely doesn't help given their two best games on their schedule were Miami and Texas A&M, and they lost both. And their best team remaining is probably USC. So they're really going to have to get lucky. A lot of teams, I think, are going to have to cannibalize themselves for Notre Dame to make the playoff. We had DJ Lagway throwing 5 interceptions. It's just not been what Florida fans thought, and I thought as of DJ Lagway going in this series, it's been really bad. Georgia, huge win against Tennessee. Coming back, winning that game in overtime the way they did. I think they're the favorite in the SEC. I think it's them and LSU that are the favorites in the SEC. Alabama, big win against Wisconsin. Georgia Tech, huge win over Clemson. There's just a lot of storylines last week. This week, I think, is even a better college football slate. And then I'm not going to just ruin this weekend, but next weekend, yeah, buddy of mine, Landon, sent me a text with what games are next week, and you are going to be really excited because there are a lot of big games. It means I got to make a lot of graphics because there's a lot of top 25 games. So without further ado, let's get into this episode. And we have lots of good games this week, and I want to start off. I try to go, in time order of how the day is going to work, and it's actually one of our graphic games. It's one of our top 25 games this week, and it's actually happening at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So the first game I want to talk about, number 17, Texas Tech going on the road to number 16, Utah. You can see right here, we got the graphic. We got the two guys we got here, Baron Morton, the quarterback for Texas Tech, and then we got Devon Dampier, the transfer that Utah has he's been so good for Utah this year. He is already through the first 3 games, over 800 yards of total offense, 8 touchdowns. This is the top 2 teams from a odds standpoint in the Big 12 the rest of the year. They're both in the plus 400 range. These are the 2 best teams, I think, in the Big 12 after watching 3 weeks. I was high on Kansas State. They're bad. They're 1-3. For them to hit their over on my over-under wins, they're going to have to win out. So we're going to chalk that one up. We're off to a good start on those. Not so much, though, unfortunately, with Kansas State. But these are the 2 best teams in the Big 12. I think they're the 2 best defenses in the Big 12. You look at the teams throughout this year so far, Texas Tech really hasn't been challenged. I mean, you look at their schedule, they basically played two very low-end Division I schools in Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, and then also Oregon State. They're really bad. Utah, if UCLA was viewed a little bit better, I would say Utah's had a challenge, but they haven't. Week 1, they played UCLA at UCLA, 143-10. So when I look at this game, I see Utah and Texas Tech as teams that really benefited from the transfer portal. Utah got their stud quarterback in Devon Dampier, And then Texas Tech brought in a ton of guys on the defensive end, and they have had huge help from those two studs they brought in, David Bailey from Stanford and Romello Height from Georgia Tech. Those guys have combined for 5 sacks through the first 3 weeks of this year. So I'm really intrigued how their defense looks against a versatile offense that Utah deploys with Devon Dampier, and then you also have Wayshawn Parker back there. It's a really good team in Utah. They're 2.5-point favorites. Kind of surprised by that line. What that line tells me is I think Vegas thinks Texas Tech is the better team. I think Utah is the better team. I would lean Utah in this game. It is weird to think we don't have a lot of these games that kick off that early. A couple of years ago, Caleb Williams went to Colorado in Deion's first year, and that game was at 9 a.m. their time, or actually Mountain Times too. So it was 10 a.m. as well, and it's just a weird time zone. Both these teams, for Texas Tech, it's 1 hour difference. Texas Tech's used to Central Time where they're going one more. So a little weird there. It's going to be a weird vibe, 10 in the morning for a college football game, but I think it's going to be electric. I think this is our big noon game. You get Joel and you get Gus on the call. I'm excited for this one. I do think Utah wins. I think Utah is the best team in the Big 12, and I think Kyle Whittingham is the best coach in the Big 12, especially just how he goes under the radar. Let's just say that, because he does that. He does that quite a bit. People forget about him, and I think if Cam Rising hasn't been hurt the last couple of years, I think that's a team in Utah that could have snuck into some playoffs. So the next game I want to talk about, 3:30, it's another graphic game, and it's a reunion game. Auburn goes to Oklahoma. Both these teams are undefeated, 3-0. Oklahoma, 11th ranked team in the country. Auburn, 22. Jackson Arnold's the quarterback for Auburn, and he also was the quarterback for Oklahoma last year. We're seeing that a lot. We're seeing a lot of interconference transfers and just things happening where it's like, wait a minute, didn't he play at that school? And we've even seen it with some big rivals. I know one of Michigan State's players transferred to Michigan, and just weird things. But both of these teams have shown very high flashes on offense, but I think both these teams have very good defenses as well. Auburn, week 1, went on the road, beat Baylor. I picked Baylor for the picks of the week that week, and Auburn dominated the game, and I think that shows a lot. Hugh Freeze is the coach there. He's a very experienced coach, and you feel he's got the buy-in from this team. They have really good receivers in Eric Singleton, the transfer from Georgia Tech, and Cam Coleman, who last year was a 5-star rated receiver. Jackson Arnold's dual threat. He can run it. He can throw it. He already has 8 touchdowns, 4 of which have come on the ground, 4 of which through the air. And then you got Oklahoma, and I think John Mateer, you saw them beat Michigan and kind of dominate Michigan from a defensive standpoint. I think Auburn and Michigan, I think you could compare their offenses in terms of, I don't think they're like explosive high end. I think Auburn has more capabilities than Michigan of being explosive, given some of the elite pass catchers. Oklahoma, though, they've been dominant on both sides of the ball. They already have beat a really good team in Michigan. I think Auburn's I think 6.5. I think it's probably a reasonable line at Oklahoma. I don't like that 6.5 number. If you think Oklahoma is going to win by a touchdown, it's great for you to bet Oklahoma minus 6.5. I think Oklahoma wins the game. I'm pretty confident in Oklahoma winning this game because I think they're the better team on both sides of the ball, and home field advantage matters, especially in the SEC. So I like Oklahoma in this game. I think Oklahoma, John Mateer, I want to see them get Jaden Ott going. I watched an interview that Oklahoma's press reporters did with John Mateer, and they're just like, Jaden Ott got to the team late in the spring, got a little banged up. He had some growing pains getting used to the offense, but they're starting to get more comfortable with him. I think that's a guy that if they can get involved and get to the point where he's at least at 10 carries a game these next couple of weeks, that's a different dynamic for them, and I think they're totally ready for that, and I'm excited to see it. So I like Oklahoma in that game. I think they're the better team. 6.5, weird line, probably stay away from that, but definitely lean Oklahoma to win that game. So this is a game that I'm excited for because I have Michigan's under 9.5 wins, and this was a game I said could be a big X factor in that. Michigan, number 21 currently, goes on the road to Nebraska, 3:30 CBS. I love CBS's broadcast. I loved it with the SEC. Unfortunately, Ohio State and Michigan State don't get a lot of those games. Ohio State is getting all the big noon games where Michigan State, they're not really getting any of those primetime games yet. But I love the CBS crew, Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson. They're my favorite voice in college football, outside of Herb Street and Chris Fowler. So excited for this game. Michigan's a 2.5-point favorite going on the road. That surprised me. I thought Nebraska would be favored just given how I think on paper these teams are very comparable. Bryce Underwood did not look good in his first road start at Oklahoma. This is road start number 2. He looked really good last week against Central. A lot of people said because Sherrone Moore wasn't calling the plays, that's why they looked a lot better offensively. But at the same time, here's my thoughts on this game. I think both these teams are really good defensively. I think always Michigan and always Nebraska are going to have a good defense. This has to be the Dylan Raiola breakout game, okay? Dylan Raiola I'm not the biggest fan of him, partly due to, he was committed to Ohio State for a little bit. I'm glad he didn't go to Ohio State. I think Julian Sands better than Dylan Raiola. And his Patrick Mahomes stuff gets a little bit too much for me. But this has to be his breakout game. He has to be the better quarterback here because he is a second-year quarterback and Underwood's a first-year quarterback. When I look at this team and I look at this game for Nebraska, it's a must-win because you get a win over Michigan at home in September. I think that goes a long way to how, the rest of your season goes because that is a huge win if you can beat Michigan. Even if people think Michigan's down, that's a massive win. The winner of this game will be the team that does not give up the most rushing yards because I look at both these teams and I think they have unbelievable running backs. I think Justice Haynes, he's almost rushed for 400 yards through 3 games. He's at almost 130 a game. Emmett Johnson on the other side for Nebraska, he's over 100 yards a game. These two have combined for 9 touchdowns. And I look at the pass catchers, I think Nebraska has the better core. Dane Key is a guy that transferred from Kentucky that I like. I just don't see it on Michigan's side. I don't think they have elite pass catchers. And I think given a lot of my buddies are Michigan fans and talking to them, that's where they think they lack. I'm going to pick Nebraska to win this game. I don't know if I can bet on this game for the Tater Tot locks of the week, which we had a bad week last week. We went 1-3 on the spread picks, lost the money line parlay, but still up for the year. And I like the board this week. Let's just say that. I like the board a lot, and we are going to have some good picks. But I look at this game, I think Nebraska wins. I think the under is a good play at 47.5 because I think the defenses are so good. And I think the defenses are better than the offenses. So our primetime big game on Big Ten Saturday night on NBC is Illinois going on the road to play Indiana. If you would have told a lot of people 2 years ago that Illinois would be ninth in the country, Indiana would have been 19th in the country, they would have laughed at you because these are two programs that haven't been good. Illinois a little bit better than Indiana in the past, but not elite programs. Well, look at the rankings. This is a pretty elite program matchup for what they're both ranked, both top 20. Guys, I gotta say, I don't know why Illinois is a 6.5-point underdog here, okay? You look at both these teams this year. Indiana has played nobody. I mean nobody. They played Old Dominion week 1. They only won by 13. I will say Old Dominion did go in and destroy Virginia Tech and kicked Brent Pry out of there. They destroyed him. But I look at it and I'm like, geez, man, I don't see they just haven't played anybody. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State. But I look at Illinois and I'm like, okay, well, Illinois played Western Illinois week 1, nothing there. Went to Duke and blew out Duke. That line was 2.5. We gave that out as a pick, and they won, and they dominated. And then they played Western Michigan, who's a team in the MAC who is middle of the road in the MAC, and they beat them 38-0. So both these teams defensively have been great. You look at Indiana, they've given up 23 points this year. Illinois has given up 22. I just don't get the line. 6.5, it's gone up. I mean, I think it was 5.5 to start the week. It's up to 6.5. Really good quarterback play. I think the better quarterback is Luke Altmaier at Illinois. He has more experience in that offense. He has more experience playing in the Big Ten. Fernando Mendoza was at Cal. I think he was obviously in the ACC. You guys know my opinion. You know the Nationals' opinion of the ACC. It's not as good as the Big Ten. So confused by that line. I really am. I think Hank Beatty is the big playmaker for Illinois. He's a wide receiver. He's got about 300 yards already. And I just see him. I look at the running back for Illinois and Caden Fagan. I mean, Indiana, they're good. I'm not saying that I think Indiana or that Illinois is for sure going to win this game, but plus 6.5 just seems like a good bet, especially in a Big Ten football game where you could tell me that Indiana wins on the last second field goal, Indiana wins by 2 field goals, all those scenarios. And then I also think on the same side, Illinois is really good and could win the game. So that game I'm very intrigued by, just because I think both teams are so evenly matched that 6.5 seems like a lot. It's going to be rocking there in Bloomington. They've not really had a primetime game like this under Kirk Cignetti. The couple primetime games they've had have not gone well. I mean, you had the Ohio State game at 3:30 on Fox, or I guess that was that big noon game, and Ohio State beat them. And you look at Indiana last year, they played Notre Dame in the playoff, but this is at home. Their fans are going to be ready. I'm excited for this game. I just think 6.5, I would lean Illinois. So some other games I want to touch on real quick. Miami plays Florida. This game would have been a top 25 game had Florida not fallen off. That's at 7:30 on ABC. You look at that game, Miami's a 7.5-point favorite. Florida just looks like they don't have a pulse. I mean, they were in the game against LSU. I think if they don't throw 5 interceptions, they win the game. Big if, but that's just, I think, common sense. You give the ball away 5 times, you're not going to win against a really good team in LSU. 7.5, weird line. I don't know. I think Florida, I could see them covering, but at the same time, I gave them out last week and they didn't cover, so I'm going to stay away from that for the picks. And then Michigan State going to USC. If you want to watch that game, you got to stay up till 11 o'clock on the East Coast. Sparty's an 18.5-point underdog. That's a lot of points. USC, I don't think has a great home field advantage, in my opinion. They have been the better team. They're better on paper. But Michigan State, I think if Michigan State can get the play action going, Nick Marsh, we don't know his status, and Nate Frazier, their running back, we don't know the status. You know, if you ask me today if Nick Marsh isn't playing, do I like 18.5? I probably don't. But I think Nick Marsh will play given the reports. They did lose an offensive lineman last week for the season, so they are banged up, but I like the Spartans to cover in that game. So, like I said, guys, we have a lot of really fun games this week. A lot of games where there's 3 top 25 games. There's a lot of top 25 teams playing that, honestly, they could get upset. You look at some of these teams. I mean, I mentioned Miami playing Florida. You got USC playing Michigan State. Obviously, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but Ole Miss plays Tulane. I could see that being interesting. Missouri plays South Carolina. I could see that being interesting. So lots of games out there that if you look at it, you got a lot of fun. And I am home for the whole day. I do not have a Michigan State game to go to. I love going to Michigan State games, but at the same time, I'm excited to have a break. Sit back, watch a lot of football this weekend. Tune into some amazing conference matchups that are starting and some fun non-conference games that are still happening. So picks will be out tomorrow on the Instagram. We're going to have a bounce back week. I promise. We are going to win you guys some money if you want. And as always, bet responsibly, and I will see you next week for another show of the Tate's Take. Have a great weekend and enjoy beautiful, beautiful fall weather and some amazing football.